Every day we wake up to news that reminds us of how fragile life truly is. Today, the world lost four remarkable American legends, people who inspired us, entertained us, and shaped our culture in ways we'll never forget. Their stories remind us that greatness isn't about how long we live. It's about the mark we leave behind. The morning sun had barely risen over the quiet suburbs of Centerville, Ohio, when the news began to spread. Former New York Jets center Nick Mangold had passed away at the age of 41. It was a piece of news that left the football world stunned. The loss of a man once seen as the unshakable foundation of one of the NFL's toughest offensive lines. For fans who grew up watching his grit on the field, it felt deeply personal, as though a familiar voice from their Sundays had suddenly gone silent. Nick Mangold wasn't just a player. He was a presence, steady, dependable, and full of quiet strength. For more than a decade, he held the line for the New York Jets, protecting quarterbacks and carving lanes for running backs with unmatched precision. Those who knew football knew that Mangold was the kind of player who didn't need attention to make an impact. His performance spoke for itself. Born on January 13, 1984 in Centerville, Ohio, Nick's journey to the NFL began in the heart of the Midwest. He grew up in a close-knit family that valued hard work and humility. Football came naturally to him, but it was discipline that defined his early years. At Centerville High School, coaches described him as focused and fiercely loyal, a teammate who never backed down from responsibility. His high school coach once said, "Nick wasn't just strong. He was thoughtful. He played every snap like it mattered." That mindset carried him to Ohio State University, where he quickly earned a reputation as one of the most technically sound centers in college football. Playing under head coach Jim Tressel, Mangold became a cornerstone of the Buckeyes' offense. His leadership in the locker room and calm under pressure caught the attention of NFL scouts across the country. In 2006, the New York Jets made him their first-round pick, a decision that would shape the team's identity for years to come. From the moment he stepped onto the field in green and white, Nick embodied the essence of what fans called Jet toughness. He wasn't the loudest voice, but his presence demanded respect. His eyes always locked on his assignment, his hands quick, his movements sharp. Quarterbacks trusted him implicitly, a silent guardian between them and chaos. Former Jets coach Rex Ryan once said, "Nick was the heart of our team. You could build an offense around him," and we did. Those words were not exaggeration. During the Jets' most competitive years, including their playoff runs in 2009 and 2010, Mangold's leadership was a constant. He played through injuries, fatigue, and countless battles in the trenches, rarely missing a game. Off the field, Nick's personality revealed a softer, lighter side. Known for his humor and humility, he often deflected praise with a smile. He had a deep love for his family, often speaking about how his upbringing kept him grounded. Friends described him as a giant with the heart of a neighbor, someone who preferred backyard barbecues to bright lights. In retirement, he stayed close to the sport, mentoring young linemen, offering commentary, and giving back to his community. He also embraced fatherhood fully, often sharing moments of his children's laughter and milestones. Those who followed him on social media saw not a celebrity, but a man deeply proud of his roots and his role as a father and husband. Then, in recent years, came the quiet struggle few knew about. Nick had been dealing with chronic kidney disease, a condition that slowly began affecting his health. Even as he faced treatment, he kept his optimism. He continued showing up for charity events, still smiling in photos, still cracking jokes. He never wanted to be seen as fragile, only human. The news of his passing came as a shock. Tributes flooded social media. Former teammates, coaches, and fans shared their memories. Mark Sanchez, his longtime quarterback, wrote, "He protected me like a brother and led like a general. There was no one tougher, no one kinder." Another teammate posted simply, "The anchor of our line. Forever 74." The New York Jets organization released a statement that read, "Nick Mangold was more than a player. He was family. His leadership, his loyalty, and his laughter will always be part of the Jets' legacy." Flags flew at half-staff at the team's training facility, and players past and present wore his number during practice as a silent tribute. Fans remembered not just his performance, but his presence, the calm intensity that made him so dependable. In the heart of New York, where criticism is constant and loyalty rare, Nick became something of a legend. A man who stayed, who cared, who gave his all to a city that demands everything. those who met him often described how approachable he was. One fan recalled meeting Nick after a game and expecting a brief handshake. Instead, Nick stopped, smiled, and asked about the fan's family. "He made you feel like you mattered," the fan said. "Like you were part of the team." His passing also opened conversations about the unseen health battles athletes face after retirement. Many former players posted heartfelt messages calling for greater awareness and support. "We remember the Warriors," one post read, "but we forget the weight they carry once the cheers fade." Nick Mangold's story is one of strength and humility, of someone who gave his best when it mattered and stayed true to himself when no one was watching. He defined what it meant to be a leader without ego. He showed that toughness wasn't just about power, but about consistency, kindness, and heart. As the football world mourns, his family continues to honor his life privately. His wife Lauren released a short message. "Nick was our rock. He was a protector at home just as he was on the field. We thank everyone for their love and prayers. He will always be with us." In Centerville, his hometown, a candlelight vigil was held at his old high school field. The same field where a teenage Nick once dreamed of the NFL now glowed under hundreds of small lights. Friends and fans shared stories, laughter, tears, and moments of silence. The scoreboard displayed a simple message: "Thank you, Nick." Across the nation, football communities joined in remembrance. Broadcasters replayed his career highlights: the perfect snaps, the pancake blocks, the roar of the crowd. Yet what resonated most were not the statistics, but the moments between plays, his nods of encouragement, his pats on the back, his quiet leadership in the huddle. He may no longer stand on the field, but his legacy remains deeply rooted in the sport. The Jets organization has hinted that his name may soon join the team's Ring of Honor, a permanent reminder of a player whose strength built more than a line. It built trust. Nick Mangold once said in an interview, "You can't measure success by the spotlight. You measure it by how many people you helped along the way." Those words now echo through every tribute, every highlight reel, and every heart that remembers him. His story reminds us that even the strongest anchors eventually rest, but the foundation they built never fades. Nick Mangold's journey from a small-town kid with big dreams to an NFL icon will forever stand as a symbol of dedication and quiet greatness. As the lights dim in the stadiums he once ruled, his spirit endures in the fans who still wear his jersey, in the players he inspired, and in the game he helped define. Nick Mangold may be gone, but the line he held for his team, his family, and his legacy will never break. It was a quiet Thursday morning in New York when the news broke. Paul "Ace" Frehley, the original lead guitarist of Kiss, had passed away. He was 74. Reports confirmed that the rock icon, known to millions as the Spaceman, died following complications from a fall that led to a brain bleed. The silence that followed the announcement stood in sharp contrast to the life he had lived, loud, electric, and full of cosmic fire. For generations of fans, Ace wasn't just a guitarist. He was a symbol of freedom, rebellion, and the infinite possibility of sound. Across the world, tributes began to pour in, from rock legends, from fans, from those who grew up painting their faces silver and black, dreaming of flying guitars and endless starlight. The band Kiss, with whom Ace created a revolution in stage performance, released a simple, heartfelt message. There was only one Spaceman. Ace's music will echo through the cosmos forever. Born on April 27, 1951, in the Bronx, New York, Paul Daniel Frehley grew up surrounded by rhythm. His family was musical, his father a classical musician and his mother a lover of gospel and swing. But young Paul was different, drawn not to gentle melodies, but to the roar of electric guitars and the promise of rock and roll. By his early teens, he was already a local legend, playing neighborhood gigs and dreaming of something larger than life. In interviews, Ace often spoke about his early influences, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, and Jeff Beck. Their sound became his foundation, but his imagination took it further. He wasn't content with just being a guitarist. He wanted to become an experience. That dream took form in 1973 when he answered an ad in the Village Voice. The ad simply read, "Looking for a lead guitarist with flash and balls." Ace showed up wearing mismatched sneakers and carrying his Les Paul guitar. That audition changed rock history. The band that would become Kiss was raw but full of vision. Alongside Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, and Peter Criss, Ace brought the final spark. When the group decided to wear makeup to create alter egos, Ace introduced the Spaceman, a persona inspired by his fascination with science fiction and outer space. With silver streaks and cosmic designs across his face, Ace didn't just play guitar. He transported audiences to another world. From 1974 onward, Kiss became a phenomenon. Their live shows were explosions of light, fire, and sound. And at the heart of it, Ace's guitar screamed like a comet tearing through the sky. He was known for his trademark smoking guitar solos, literally modified guitars that spewed smoke and sparks mid-performance. To the young fans who packed arenas, it wasn't just a show. It was a revelation. One fan once recalled, "When Ace hit that solo, you didn't hear it, you felt it." It was like being launched into space. But behind the fame, Ace's journey was complicated. The fame that made him a star also became his greatest test. The relentless touring, the chaos of success, and the pressures of stardom began to take their toll. Like many rock icons of his era, Ace struggled with substance abuse throughout the late 1970s and early 80s. His wild energy that electrified the stage sometimes consumed him off it. In 1982, he officially left Kiss, a move that marked both an ending and a beginning. For the fans, it felt like the band had lost a part of its soul. But for Ace, it was a chance to rediscover himself. "I needed to breathe," he once said in an interview. "I needed to remember who Paul Frehley was before the makeup." What followed was a period of reinvention. Ace launched his solo career with Frehley's Comet, bringing back his signature sound, melodic, fast, and full of swagger. His 1978 solo hit New York Groove became his personal anthem, a reminder of where he came from and what kept him grounded. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Ace continued to perform, sometimes with Kiss, sometimes alone, but always as himself, authentic, unapologetic, and raw. He rejoined Kiss for their legendary reunion tour in 1996, reminding fans that the Spaceman's energy was timeless. The reunion drew millions of fans, young and old, across continents. It was proof that some flames never burn out. Former bandmate Gene Simmons once said, "Ace was unpredictable, and that's what made him magic. You never knew what he'd do next, but you always knew it would be real." Offstage, however, Ace was quieter than most expected. He loved painting, restoring guitars, and spending time with his family. He often spoke about the peace he found in simplicity, a sharp contrast to the chaos of his earlier years. He was open about his past struggles and proud of his sobriety, often saying that surviving rock and roll was his greatest solo. In his final years, Ace continued to tour and record, even as health issues occasionally slowed him down. Fans who saw him on his last tours described a man who still played with the same spark he had in his 20s. He didn't just play the guitar, one concert-goer shared online. He communicated through it. It was like watching a man speak to the stars. The news of his death on October 16, 2025, hit the rock world like thunder. At first, many refused to believe it. Ace had always seemed indestructible, the cosmic traveler who outlived his own myths. But as details emerged, the reality set in. A tragic fall at his home in Westchester County, followed by a brain bleed that doctors couldn't reverse. He passed peacefully, surrounded by family and close friends. In the days that followed, tributes appeared from every corner of the music world. Ozzy Osbourne wrote, "Ace was one of a kind, a guitar hero who played from another planet. Rest easy, brother." Metallica's Kirk Hammett posted a photo of Ace holding a Les Paul, captioned, "Thank you for teaching us that guitar solos could be fun and fearless." At his memorial in New York, hundreds gathered as musicians, fans, and family and to celebrate his life. The ceremony began quietly, with acoustic renditions of Kiss classics like Shock Me and Love Gun. As candles flickered, video montages played of Ace performing, smiling, laughing. Then, as the lights dimmed, a holographic image of the Spaceman's silver makeup shimmered across the stage. The crowd rose in applause, not in mourning, but in tribute. Friends who spoke at the service remembered him not as a rock god, but as a man who loved deeply and lived freely. His longtime girlfriend, Rachel Gordon, said softly, "Ace didn't chase the stars. He was one, and he showed us that even in darkness, music can shine." His daughter, Monique, holding back tears, shared, "My dad taught me that the universe isn't just up there, it's in us. Every time I hear his music, I feel him laughing, somewhere out among the stars." That moment encapsulated who Ace Frehley truly was. A man of contradictions, wild yet thoughtful, reckless yet kind. A musician who turned sound into a journey and showed the world that you didn't need perfection to create magic. You just needed heart. Today, Ace's influence continues to ripple through rock and metal. Bands cite him as the reason they picked up a guitar. His signature riffs, his tone, his attitude, they all became part of the DNA of modern rock. Guitarists from Slash to Dave Grohl have acknowledged his impact. His 1978 solo album remains one of the best-selling of any Kiss member, still spinning on vinyl across generations, even after his death. His music feels alive, like the hum of a spaceship still traveling through the night sky. On fan forums, messages of love continue to appear daily. One fan wrote, "You can't kill Stardust." Ace is out there somewhere, still playing, still smiling. In truth, that's how most will remember him. Not as a man lost to time, but as an eternal traveler, the Spaceman, forever suspended between music and memory. His laughter, his riffs, his legacy, all echoing in the cosmos he once pretended to come from. As the world says goodbye, one final image lingers. The silver streak across his face, the flash of his guitar, and that knowing grin before a solo began. It wasn't just a performance. It was a transmission, a message that music could take us beyond gravity, beyond pain, beyond the ordinary, and now, as his spirit joins the vast silence of the universe he loved so much, we remember his own words from years ago. "I always believed that music could take you places. Maybe now I've finally gone where the music comes from." Paul Ace Frehley, the spaceman who rocked the cosmos, leaves behind more than sound. He leaves behind wonder. And somewhere in the quiet of the night, if you listen closely, you can still hear that soaring riff, fading into the stars, where it was always meant to be. The soft light of dawn fell over Los Angeles when the news gently broke. June Lockhart, the beloved matriarch of classic television, had passed away. She was 100 years old. The actress, who became a comforting presence for generations through her roles in Lassie and Lost in Space, died peacefully of natural causes, surrounded by family. Her departure marked the end of an era, one defined by grace, kindness, and a rare ability to make audiences feel at home. For nearly 9 decades, June Lockhart was more than just an actress. She was Hollywood's universal mother, calm, reassuring, and endlessly warm. Her familiar smile and steady voice carried through the golden age of television, shaping the memories of millions who grew up watching her care for families on screen. Born on June 25, 1925, in New York City, June came from a family deeply rooted in the performing arts. Her parents, Jean and Kathleen Lockhart, were both actors, and from a young age she was immersed in theater and storytelling. Her path seemed destined. At just 8 years old, she appeared in a stage production with her parents, and even then, her natural charm captured hearts. Hollywood soon followed. In 1938, June made her film debut in A Christmas Carol, playing the young daughter of Bob Cratchit, a role that introduced her to audiences as the face of innocence and compassion. Over the years, those qualities would become her signature. Through the 1940s and 1950s, June's career grew steadily, shaped not by scandal or fame-chasing, but by quiet dedication. She appeared in dozens of films and television shows, often portraying women who embodied strength and tenderness in equal measure. But it was in 1954 that her life changed forever, when she was cast as Ruth Martin, the gentle but steadfast mother in Lassie. For nearly a decade, June's portrayal of Ruth became a symbol of comfort across American living rooms. The show wasn't just about a heroic dog. It was about family, morality, and hope, themes that June brought to life effortlessly. Parents admired her composure. Children adored her warmth. She became, for many, the mother everyone wished they had. Decades later, she would recall, "I think people saw a bit of their own families in Lassie." It wasn't about pretending. It was about love, patience, and believing in goodness. When Lassie ended, June didn't fade away. She reinvented herself. In 1965, she took on the role of Maureen Robinson in the science fiction classic Lost in Space. Once again, she became the emotional heart of a family, this time journeying among the stars. Her calm presence grounded the show's adventurous spirit, balancing the futuristic fantasy with a sense of humanity and care. Fans remember her sitting in the spaceship's cabin, offering comfort to her children as asteroids loomed outside. It was that same familiar magic, a mother's strength, unshaken even in the face of the unknown. As one fan shared on social media after her passing, she made space feel like home. Even when the world around her was chaos, she stayed calm, loving, and brave. That's who June Lockhart was, on screen and off. Off camera, June's life mirrored her roles in many ways. She was devoted to her two daughters, Anne and Elizabeth, both of whom followed her into acting. Her friends described her as deeply kind and endlessly curious, a woman who loved gardening, books, and quiet afternoons with tea. Though she was a Hollywood star, she never lost her gentle humility. Over time, June became one of television's most recognizable faces. Her career spanned across eras, from black and white screens to modern HD remasters, yet her performances never aged. She adapted effortlessly, appearing in later shows like Grey's Anatomy, Seventh Heaven, and even General Hospital, proving that her artistry transcended generations. In 2013, June received a Lifetime Achievement Award, standing before an audience that rose in applause. With her signature grace, she said softly, "If I've done anything worth remembering, I hope it's that I made people feel less alone." The room fell silent, then erupted into a standing ovation. As she aged, June remained active and full of wit. Even into her 90s, she appeared at conventions, smiling for photos with fans who had watched her since childhood. She often joked about being the eternal mom, saying, "I guess I've been everyone's mother at some point, and it's the greatest compliment I could ever receive." When news of her passing spread, tributes poured in from across the industry. Actress Angela Lansbury, who once called her Hollywood's heartbeat of gentleness, had described her years earlier as a woman who never played a role. She simply lived them. Television historian Mark Dawkins wrote, "June Lockhart was the bridge between generations, from the golden age of radio to streaming screens today." Her legacy isn't just in film, it's in the calm she brought to millions of homes. Even NASA once honored her, presenting her with a certificate for inspiring interest in space, exploration through her role in Lost in Space. It was a fitting tribute for an actress whose imagination had indeed taken audiences beyond Earth, and whose humanity had kept them grounded. As her century-long life drew to a close, June often spoke about gratitude. "Every role I've played," she once said, "was a gift. Acting taught me about people, about love, loss, and hope. I've lived so many lives, and I'm thankful for all of them." That humility and warmth became her true legacy. To her fans, she was the mother who never stopped caring. To her peers, she was a professional's professional, punctual, prepared, and kind to everyone on set. And to her family, she was simply Mom, the same gentle soul who read bedtime stories and baked cookies when cameras weren't rolling. At her private memorial, held in Los Angeles, friends and family gathered to celebrate her life. Black and white clips from Lassie and Lost in Space played softly on a screen. Her daughters spoke of her humor and her strength. "She taught us how to love without condition," Anne said through tears. "That's something you can't learn in Hollywood. That's something you're born with." In that moment, it became clear why June Lockhart had meant so much to so many. She wasn't famous because she sought fame. She was loved because she gave love, freely, sincerely, and without ego. As candles flickered and her voice echoed through old recordings, one line from Lost in Space lingered in the air. "No matter where we go, as long as we're together, we'll always be home." That was June Lockhart's gift, the ability to make strangers feel like family, to make the vastness of the world, or even outer space, feel warm and familiar. Her story is one of endurance, artistry, and grace. A woman who lived a full century, giving every year a touch of kindness and purpose. Her passing is not just the loss of an actress, but the quiet farewell of an era when television carried heart before spectacle, when every story carried a lesson, and every face on screen carried hope. As her family released in their statement, she lived her life with gratitude, laughter, and love. Her light never dimmed, it simply returned to the stars. And so, as Hollywood bids farewell, June Lockhart's legacy remains, not just in her performances, but in the generations of families she comforted, inspired, and guided through the glow of their screens. A century of grace. A lifetime of love. June Lockhart, forever the mother of American television, and the gentle heart of home. The air in Athens felt unusually still on the morning of October 22, 2025. From radios and corner cafes to televisions flickering in quiet homes, The same somber words were repeated across Greece. Dionysus Savvopoulos had passed away. The nation paused, not just to mourn but to remember. The man whose music once echoed through decades of change, resistance, and rebirth was gone. He was 80 years old. Reports confirmed he died of heart failure while battling cancer, closing a remarkable life that had become part of Greece's cultural soul. For more than 60 years, Dionysus Savvopoulos was not merely a musician, he was a storyteller, a poet and at times a mirror reflecting the soul of his country. His songs captured Greece's laughter and pain, its hope and disillusionment. Through melody and verse, he gave voice to generations who lived through turbulence and triumph, always reminding them that art could heal, provoke, and unite. Born on December 2, 1944 in Thessaloniki, Dionysus grew up in a post-war Greece, a time when hardship and dreams walked side by side. His early years were shaped by the sounds of Macedonian folk music, church hymns, and the political restlessness that defined the era. He studied law for a brief time, but music quickly pulled him away. By the early 1960s, his guitar had become his weapon, and his lyrics his language of truth. When he moved to Athens, he was young and idealistic, yet fearless in his pursuit of art. He began performing in small clubs, blending poetry with social commentary in a way few dared to attempt. His voice, gentle yet unyielding, carried the weight of meaning beyond the words he sang. In 1966, his first album, To Fortigo, The Truck, arrived, raw, honest, and unlike anything the country had heard before. It spoke to the struggles of the working class and the emotional fabric of a restless society. During the years of dictatorship in Greece, Savvopoulos's work became both refuge and rebellion. His songs often carried hidden political messages, cloaked in metaphors but heard clearly by the people. Listeners would gather in small rooms, playing his records in whispers, finding courage in every lyric. "He made us feel seen," one longtime fan wrote in tribute. "When we were afraid to speak, he sang for us." As the political landscape changed, so did Savvopoulos's music. Through the 1970s and 1980s, he continued to evolve, blending folk, rock, and traditional Greek sounds into something entirely his own. He was often compared to artists like Bob Dylan and George Brassens for his lyrical depth, yet his style remained unmistakably Greek. Albums like Balos and Vromiko Psomi became cultural landmarks, weaving history, myth, and humanity into song. He was known not just for his artistry, but for his ability to observe, to capture the emotional state of a nation in transition. Whether singing about love, politics, or philosophy, Savvopoulos spoke directly to the listener's heart. "The song," he once said, "is not an escape. It is a confession, for the singer and for those who listen." In later years, Dionysus became a respected voice of wisdom in Greece's cultural life. He appeared frequently on television and radio, always thoughtful, always reflective. He encouraged younger generations to write, to question, to carry forward the Greek tradition of storytelling through music. Even as his health began to decline, he continued to compose and perform, appearing on stage with the same quiet fire that had defined his youth. The news of his passing brought an outpouring of grief and gratitude. Crowds gathered outside the National Theatre of Greece, where his songs were softly played through speakers. In Thessaloniki, his hometown, musicians filled the streets, playing Mia Ganaika Fevge, one of his most cherished songs. Across social media, fans shared lyrics that had guided their lives. Greek President Katerina Sakeleropoulou released a heartfelt statement. "Dionysus Savvopoulos was a poet of our times. Through his words, we recognized ourselves, our struggles, our humor, our humanity." Greece owes him not only for his music, but for his courage to speak when silence was easier. His wife, Aspasia, who stood by his side for more than 50 years, shared a brief message with the press. "He left the same way he lived, peacefully, with music in his heart. He always said that songs are eternal, and now so is he." In his final months, close friends said Dionysus remained creative and curious. Despite battling illness, he continued writing short verses and notes, often reflecting on life and the fleeting nature of time. "He never stopped thinking like a poet," one friend recalled. "Even when his hands were weak, his mind danced." His funeral in Athens became a national moment of remembrance. Thousands gathered under the autumn sky, many holding candles as his songs played softly in the background. From the elderly who had grown up with his music to young artists who discovered him through their parents, the crowd was united in reverence, The Archbishop of Athens spoke briefly, calling Savvopoulos a man who gave Greece its voice during its most difficult years. As the ceremony ended, a children's choir sang Ola Ainai Dromos, Everything is a Road, one of his most beloved songs. The melody drifted through the air, tender and eternal. For Greece, Dionysius Savvopoulos was more than a musician. He was part of the nation's conscience, a reminder of how art can speak truth even in silence, how melody can survive even when hope fades. His lyrics became lessons, his songs became archives of feeling. In a country where history is both heavy and sacred, he gave people a way to carry it through song. He once said in an interview, "The artist doesn't lead people, he walks beside them. He sings what they cannot say." That humility, that deep sense of purpose, defined his legacy. Today, his music still plays across generations. Students study his poetry in classrooms. Street performers sing his songs in the squares of Athens. His voice, gentle yet unwavering, remains a thread in the fabric of Greek identity. As one fan wrote beneath a tribute video, Dionysus taught us to listen to ourselves, to our country, to our hearts, and to our history. And now, as the sun sets over the Aegean and the sounds of bouzouki fade into the night, his legacy endures, timeless, poetic, and profoundly human. Dionysius Savvopoulos, the voice of Greece's soul, may have left this world, but his words still travel on the wind, carried by the people he sang for. His music remains a bridge between the past and the future, between memory and melody, and somewhere in the quiet rhythm of a Greek evening, his voice still whispers that life, like his song, is both fragile and eternal.